Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and I hope you're all having a great day. The 2019 Tata Steel Masters is only a few days away, so I thought it would be a good idea just to cover a game from last year's Tata Steel in order to get us warmed up for the main event. So this game is played between Anish, Giri and Vladimir Kramnik, both of whom performed incredibly well in last year's event. Giri had white in this game. He opened with c4. Kramnik responded with e6. We have knight c3 and bishop to b4. So black immediately wants to capture on c3 and double white's queenside pawns. So Giri played queen to b3. This attacks the bishop. Also prepares to recapture with the queen. Bishop a5. We have knight to f3. And here's c5 from Kramnik, and this is actually a novelty on as early as move 4. So this move is commonly played in the Nimzo Indian, and it has a similar intent. Black wants to control the d4 square, and also at the same time make it difficult for white to dislodge the dark square bishop. So here Giri played d4, we have knight f6, Giri took on c5, knight f6 from Kramnik, preparing to recapture, bishop to e3, developing and defending, knight to e4, piling up on the pin knight on c3 and preparing to recapture. So here Giri plays g3, preparing to develop his light square bishop. So Kramnik took on c5, queen c2, then Kramnik took on c3, and he played b6. So the opening has gone pretty well for Kramnik. He managed to weaken Giri's queenside pawns, and he has no structural weaknesses himself. Giri continued with bishop g2, bishop to b7, both sides castle, rook after d1 grabbing the open central file, and here queen to e7 from Kramnik connecting his rooks. So also possible was queen c7, where black keeps watch of b6 and c5, and maybe this is slightly better considering what happened in the game. So here bishop f4 is tempting, but that runs into d6. e5 will be a tempo gainer, followed by f5 with a kingside initiative. So queen c7 is interesting, but here queen e7 played by Kramnik. So Giri plays a4, going for the most obvious plan in the position, trying to create some counterplay down the a file. So here Kramnik played d6. You might be thinking, why not a move like bishop to a6, trying to go after the weakness on c4. Well, here white has knight d4. This opens up an attack on the knight. So if black were to retreat the bishop back to b7, then he would have just wasted a tempo. So with f5, then white goes knight to b5. He's going to play f3, followed by knight d6, and white will have a great position. So here d6 from Kramnik. Giri plays a5, and Kramnik goes f5, a very aggressive move. So with the idea of going e5 and f4, but this is very double-edged because it opens up the 7th rank. And if white manages to seize control of the a file, then he could have some serious counterplay. So Giri took on b6, and he played knight d4, and this is a good move by Giri. So this foils Kramnik's idea of going e5, because this can now be met with knight takes f5. And if rook takes, then you take on a8, bishop takes c5. So if knight takes, then there is bishop takes a8. So here b takes c5. Bishop takes e4, white is up a pawn. These bishops will most likely be traded. White has a very stable position with nice control of the d5 square and a very nice target on d6 to work with. So here if queen to e6, then again you can take on a8, then play bishop h3 to defend this. So if g6, then this is met with a knight h6 check, followed by picking up the queen. And if rook takes f5, then here you take on c5 and play f3. And after the knight moves, then the rook is going to be on pre. So here e5 doesn't work. Kramnik's position is already quite difficult. He has to deal with pressure on the a file, in addition to his weak pawns on b6, d6, and e6. And here knight b5 is highly unpleasant for black. So here Kramnik played knight to f6, which is an inaccuracy. So maybe he could have tried to play rook takes a1 and play the move h6 to give the king a place to hide. And black will try to meet rook a7 with the move rook to f7, trying to keep things solid. So maybe that was Kramnik's best defense. But knight to f6. Giri took on b7, and Kramnik recaptured with the knight, which looks very awkward. So Kramnik probably didn't like what happened after queen takes b7, rook takes, knight to b5, with a double attack on d6. So here if d5, white will gladly capture and play bishop d4. The bishop has finally found its purpose on this nice long diagonal. White is going to play the move c4 next, and this is going to be pretty decent position for white. So that is why Kramnik played knight takes b7. Rook takes a8, knight b5, so that puts pressure on d6 and also opens up an attack on the b6 pawn. A very difficult position for Kramnik. Kramnik played rook to c8, trying to get some counterplay going down on the c file. So queen to a2 played that defends c4 and also grabs the open a file. So here bishop takes b6 is also very good. So if rook takes c4, then there's rook to a1, looking very pleasant for white, threatening moves like rook a7, also rook to a8. But here Giri played queen to a2, d5 from Kramnik. White has so many tempting options here. There's bishop takes b6, there's queen to a7, but Giri plays the move bishop to g5. So creating an annoying pin, and this could be quite unpleasant if white manages to get in queen to a7. So here Kramnik took on c4, queen a8 check, king to f7. So it looks like black is just barely holding on. Now rook to a1, threatening rook a7. So knight to a5 from Kramnik, trying to block the file. Queen b8 now, looking at b6, and also threatening a fork with knight d6. So rook c6. So Kramnik is just hanging on for dear life. Knight d4. So here Kramnik finally cracks. He plays rook takes c3. So here rook d6 would have held on for longer. But rook takes c3. Queen takes b6, and now black's position collapses. Knight c4. Queen to b8, threatening rook a7, which would pin the queen. So here Kramnik plays knight to d7. So trying to meet rook a7. This attacks the queen. Also opens up the queen's attack on the bishop. But this loses tactically. Now bishop takes e7. Knight takes b8. And Giri plays bishop to b4. And this rook is just trapped. So Kramnik plays e5, trying to fight on, but Giri easily converts this. So he plays rook a7, king g8, took on c3. So here knight c6 from Kramnik, forking rook and bishop. But white has rook takes g7, king f8, and bishop to f6. And black runs out of tricks, and in this position, Vladimir Kramnik resigned. A very nice victory by Anish Giri. So Kramnik perhaps got a little too ambitious in this game. Hopefully this game is going to get us warmed up for this upcoming Tata Steel tournament. That is all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the game and have a great day.